Hello, welcome to Easiest Pilot, Mr. Carpenter. I'm Mr. Carpenter, and if you're watching this, you're probably wondering why the video cut off so fast. That is because I made a mistake in recording, and this is now split into two parts. So moving on, 12i to the power of 99 divided by 6i to the power of 44. With these, I kind of like to just think of them as combining like terms, right? We have 12 divided by 6, which is 2. And then we have I to the 99 divided by I to the 44, right? And this is our quotient rule. They are the same base and they're being divided. So I keep the base and subtract the exponents. And 99 minus 44 is a number. It is 55. 2i to the power of 55. Once again, we cannot have any powers above 1 in our i's because that is not fully simplified. So we'll take 55 divided by 4, and that is 13.75, which means this is really negative I, which is negative 2i. And that is our final answer. Moving on to 10 divided by 5 plus I. What is keeping this from being fully simplified is the fact that there is an imaginary number in its denominator. So for this, we have to use our conjugate to take care of it. Now remember, the conjugate is you keep the first number and you flip the sign of the second number. So for the conjugate of 5 plus I would be 5 minus I. And in doing that, you will cancel out imaginary numbers in the denominator. So we have 5 minus I, and of course what we do to the bottom we must also do to the top, right? So that way we're essentially multiplying by 1 and not changing the fraction at all. So we distribute the 10. 10 times 5 is 50, and 10 times negative I is minus 10i. Then we have 5 plus I times 5 minus I, and I'll work that over here first. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times I, negative I, is negative 5i. I times 5 is positive 5i. And I times negative I is negative I squared. Now you notice that those two i's will cancel out, right? Negative 5i plus 5i is just 0. So really we'll have 25 minus I squared, but I squared is negative 1. So right, this is minus negative 1. Which is really 25 plus 1. So we'll have 50 minus 10i over 26. And as we stipulated above, we're going to be reducing all fractions as needed. And these are all even numbers, which means I can cut them all in half, right? So 50 divided by 2 is 25. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And 26 divided by 2 is 13. So we'll get 25 minus 5i over 13. And that is our final answer. Moving on down here, we got 8i minus 3 over 3i plus 1. Same game plan. We're just going to have to FOIL twice. 3i minus 1. Keep the first, negate the second. 3i minus 1. We'll start by FOILing the top because that's going to be the harder of the two. 8i times 3i is 24i squared. 8i times negative 1 is negative 8i. And this line needs to be way longer. Negative 3 times 3i is negative 9i. And negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. I believe I didn't make any mistakes there. No, I did not. Okay, so 3i times 3i is 9i squared. And this is going to be negative 3i. That's going to be positive 3i. So those are going to cancel out. So really we can just skip to the good part, which is 1 times negative 1, which is minus 1. All right, I want to do a few things in one step here. First of all, I want to combine the like terms. So on the top, so we got negative 8i minus 9i, which is negative 17i. I squared is negative 1, so it's going to be negative 24 plus 3, which is negative 21 minus 17i. I squared is a negative 1 again, so we'll get negative 9 minus 1, which is negative 10. And these are not all even numbers. There is no greatest common factor of these. So we are not able to simplify this any further. So we are all done. Moving on. I guess you could take the negative signs out if you really wanted to, but I'm not going to concern myself with that today. Negative 10 minus 11i squared. Do not do negative 10 squared minus 11i squared. Do not do that. Right? This minus sign in the middle tells us that we're not allowed to use our power rule. We instead have to write it as repeated multiplication. Right? Squaring just means you multiply it by itself. So we have negative 10 times negative 10, positive 100. Negative 10 times negative 11i, positive 110i. Negative 11i minus 10i is also positive 110i. And then we have a negative 11i times negative 11i, which is positive 121i squared. Once again, a lot of places to mess up mental math. So everything goes into your calculator. Don't run those kinds of risks. Let's combine like terms. That is going to be 220i. And I'm going to put that in red because this is going to be a final answer. And then I squared is negative 1. So we got 100 minus 121, which will be negative 21 plus 220i. And I believe everything looks good there. I hate making mistakes on the videos. I just want to confirm that what I did was correct. Positive 100. Yep, everything looks good here. Yes, we are all good. Negative 21 plus 220i. Some distribution. Term on the outside gets multiplied by the terms on the inside. So we're going to do our product rule, and we're going to multiply their coefficients. So 3 times negative 2, negative 6. I to the first times I cubed is I to the fourth. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. I to the first times I squared is I cubed. 3 times 5 is positive 15. I times I is I squared. 3 times negative 15 is negative 30. And only one term has an I, so it just sticks along for the ride. Now I simplify my i's. I to the fourth is just 1, so that will just become negative 6. I cubed is negative I, so it'll be negative 3 times negative I, which is positive 3i, right? That negative sign will flip over. I squared is negative 1, so 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. And then negative 30i once again. Then one last step to combine like terms. Two different sets of like terms. We got negative 30 plus 3, which is negative 27i. And then we have negative 6 minus 15, which is negative 21. And that one's done. Last one. Square root of 75. Once again, let's just get rid of the square root. Or get rid of the negative sign in the square root. And just slap an I out in front. And now we got to think about terms that we can, are factors of 75, or one of them is a perfect square. Hopefully the one that comes to your mind is 25 times 3. That is 75, and the square root of 25 is 5. That is exactly what I'm looking for. So we will have I, root 25, root 5, over 5. Square root of 25 is, as you can imagine, 5. So we'll get 5i, root 5, over 5. And would you look at that? We are multiplying by 5 and we're dividing by 5. So those will cancel out and we will just be left with I root 5. And we are all done. And this is the complex numbers review. Thank you for watching, and do not hesitate to let me know if you have